what has happened? I mean, it's like they say it's night and we say it's day, and they're like, no, it's night. Up is down, down is up, and you're not ever given the truth. Joe Biden's biggest frustration with his administration was that he didn't control information enough. Think about that. He did not control information enough. I'm like, buddy, for goodness sakes, you had the entire world, right, on speed dial for your parroting of talking points. I mean, there was this one the other day, right, where we saw the Democrats with their little talking points. It was crazy. There were 3 of them out at first. Remember this?
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of groceries.
It was literally the same exact script. And then it was 5? Seriously?
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
That ain't true. That's what you just heard. Since day one of Donald Trump's presidency, prices are not down, they're up. Inflation is getting worse, not better. The prices of groceries, gas, eggs, of essentials, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has done nothing to lower costs for you. Instead, it's part of violence, police absolutely police officers.
But just one more time. I won't even show you the next. They were like different iterations. One of my producers kept showing me. He's like, oh my God, there's more. Okay, before you knew it, you had 22 Democrats with the exact same talking points, the exact same script. It's like the CIA op that we're talking about, right? That Mike Benz is saying. Like they get a narrative and then they just push it out. But nowadays, people are smarter because they can immediately show you where it's coming from. In this case, well, we don't actually know who it's coming from, interestingly enough. But the Democrats are all saying the exact same thing.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
You get my point. Okay, so now we're talking about the ability to take taxpayer money and feed it to various arms of the CIA and any kind of ops now that are under the jurisdiction of whoever's in charge. This is what Obama made happen, okay? So 2013, they start putting this stuff. So it's only been around, 12 years or so. But if you think about the craziness over the last 12 years and how we keep saying, but, and they're like, nope, shut it down. Now I think it's all coming out. And I think Mike is right when he says you got to have a firewall, because otherwise you're using taxpayer funds to create propaganda, which is then being turned on us. And boy, are they angry. They're so angry that this is getting exposed. Everything's getting exposed. I mean, they're so angry that, we know that a good percentage of the budget for the BBC, for example, comes from USAID, US taxpayers. We know that the New York Times is getting millions and millions of dollars. We know that Politico during 2024 was getting $8.2 million, charging $10,000 per account that they were giving to government employees that they said you just had to have. They try and disguise it along the way. Okay, we're going to give you a Politico subscription for $10,000 a year. But what is this other than just manipulating, as Mike said, the media here and today? And now they can't really do it, and they don't know what to think now. They're just going to say that this is because of Trump and he's somehow a dictator. I mean, think about what they were saying in the US media. I would sometimes be like, you got to be kidding me. Listening to Morning Joe and The View and the Disney actors and the whole lot of them, right? They're on the payroll. I mean, effectively, what we've learned is that this particular act that Obama modernized allowed for money to be exchanged to bankroll NGOs political organizations, universities, so that they could have an effect on the public opinion back here at home. And now it's all coming undone. So Hillary Clinton was out in Germany today, and she's freaking out. She's totally freaking out. Why? Oh, the whole system is coming apart. So now she's going on the attack. Can I just say, like, you don't do that, right? You're on international soil. First of all, what she's saying is ridiculous, but you certainly don't do that when you're going overseas. Let's watch this one together. It is horrifying. It is wrong, but nonetheless, it's Hillary.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. There's no way to explain it away. Autocracy is on the march, and we now have a government in the United States that has thrown in its lot with the autocrats, which has made a choice to support those who wage war, not peace, who has given enormous power to the men who control the information flow in our world, who have all pledged allegiance to the continuation of algorithms that not only addict us, but poison us with hatred and fear.
So don't forget, the whole idea of the modernization of that act was to somehow prevent those algorithms, right, from quote unquote taking over. This is what they use as their justification so that they can pour tons and tons and tons of money into all these other ventures in order to influence not just public opinion around the world, but of course, public opinion right here at home. So I think it's all related, guys. And what you're seeing today is Donald Trump coming forward with Tulsi Gabbard and so many others now that are doing this release, and they don't even have the talking points, right? Donald Trump saying, no, we don't have any executive summary. It's up to you guys. Like, here it is. Go for it. It's all going to be out there. So yes, the reporters actually have to do their jobs and they have to do the reading, which is why, yes, it was a late night for me and an early morning for me as we tried to figure out what is of note here. But to me, just in my initial reaction, in addition to the memo I just showed you from, the Gary Underhill situation, I just think it's really important to think about how they were trying to control the narrative, even back then. And sometimes when you try and control that, you actually destroy like all the trust, any trust you had, gone. Absolutely positively gone. And what we've seen is that trust has been eroded because, yes, you did have Elon Musk. You can call him whatever you want to call him, Hillary. We had Elon Musk out there exposing all this. We know now. I mean, hey, the BBC admitted it, that a big giant portion of its funding came from this quote-unquote international charity, including USAID. We know that there was $34.3 million coming into Politico from all these different government agencies. Remember, Politico was the one that they placed that letter in, the 51X spooks, that wanted you to know there was no way in HELL that laptop was anything other than Russian disinformation. They put the letter in Politico, of course, because, it's a client. In New York Times, forgive me, I was talking 30 earlier, it's 50 million. You get the Associated Press getting $19.5 million in government contracts, including a $619,000 grant from the Department of State. And interestingly, what do you know? The funding spikes during an election year. Here's the graphic from Politico. Take a peek. 2024, look at all the money going in, for goodness sakes. You mean to tell me we need that many $10,000 a year subscriptions to Politico? I don't think so. No, you didn't need that. Okay, $10,000 a year, 236 subscriptions. No, we didn't need that. Reuters was getting money too. $9 million from the State Department of Defense for active social engineering, defense, and large-scale social deception. Okay, so you would say, oh, well, that's what we do, right? Like, that's the CIA in action. It's trying to influence worldwide opinion so we can have an effect on all these different governments, etc. Better to do this than wage war, except that we've now turned this, thank you very much, Obama, on to ourselves. This has now been unleashed onto the U.S. through the Modernization Act, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012. So it lifted the domestic ban on U.S. government-produced media, allowing such content to be made available to American audiences. Supporters argued, you know what, this changed. We have to do it. We have to do it because, you know, how else are we going to control the rise of misinformation on the internet? You can have foreigners producing stuff all of a sudden. It can be easily accessed. So we need to make sure we are putting our view out there to our people. Well, okay. But you see, when you're the ones in office and you're trying to completely tightly control that narrative, it turns very quickly into propaganda. And when you lie and you lie and you lie some more, people say no thank you. And that's exactly what happened in this election. There was a new study that just came out yesterday, in fact, by a Democrat-run data organization that showed if actually more Democrats had come out to vote, Donald Trump would have won by an even larger margin. Because people were so freaking sick of everything. You know, you're supposed to welcome everybody in. You know, we don't really have a problem on the border. We just want to, you know, be one happy, open society. And yet all these communities were being overwhelmed with growing violence and growing economic challenges. And it turns out, well, you know, if you actually had tried, you might have been able to shut that down, just like Donald Trump has. In a few months, it's dropped by 99,000. Again, go back to this last point by Mike Benz, who is making, you know, his entire passion right now all about making sure truth comes out. Here he is with Joe Rogan.
We're up against a much, actually, deeper, darker problem with this USAID scandal, and as people will see increasingly, the scandals that will break open at the Pentagon and the State Department, which is that we have a Smith-Mundt problem for funding and operations. It's not just propaganda. The blob, our foreign policy establishment, can fund groups that effectively work with prosecutors domestically, or that work at media. You know, dual use. We give them foreign grants to do media propaganda abroad, but they operate here. Or social media censorship, to coerce foreign countries to pass foreign censorship laws that explicitly and are intended to attack U.S. social media companies and in U.S. peer-to-peer speech. So we need that protection. If we're going to keep this function at all, we need a hard firewall and absolute grotesque penalties for any violation.
Okay? That kind of feels like a no-brainer to me. And I think that this declassification of all the JFK files is the first step in the right direction to getting this transparency, which is so desperately needed. You can't really have a functioning society without some faith in the government. But when the government lies to you over and over and over again, and they keep getting caught lying to you, you start to lose that faith. And so how do you restore that? You do things like what we're seeing today. You put it all out there and say, hey, you know what? We're not even going to give you an executive summary. We don't have our people from the CIA on speed dial spouting little talking points to the New York Times. No. We're just going to put it out there and let you guys run with it. And you find what you can find, because we are all about telling the truth. And that goes a long way. A really long way towards reestablishing the very trust and faith that you need in this government in order for your institutions to succeed. You cannot sit there and lie to people. And they lied for 60 some odd years. We still don't entirely know the truth. But go back to the major memo. Okay, what did Gary Underhill know? He knew something, and he told people, he told his friends, according to this memo, he told his friends in New Jersey that he believed the CIA was responsible for this. And it all related back to Sam Cummings, who was running a weapons group that JFK had found, and that, you know, suddenly Underhill winds up dead 6 months later. Well, was this just a coincidence? Or is it because they wanted to get rid of him? Again, I think sometimes the cover-up is the real problem here. It was either stupidity, could have been negligence, it could have been, they didn't want anybody to hear about the foreigners that were attacking us because that would have led to World War III. But the effort that went into protecting everyone, that's what eventually was the undoing. And so we saw a lot of discouragement in the faith of the U.S. government, our institutions, and that has continued on and on to the point where we now, today, ladies and gentlemen, have very little faith in anything because of what we have seen transpire over the last 8 to 10 years. And just coincidentally, it goes with the modernization of the Smith-Mundt Act, which allowed for all of this money being poured into overseas organizations to influence opinion to then be turned right back on us. Think about that. We got a lot more reading to do, don't we? Quick reminder, 76 Research, where we're always telling you the truth and nothing but the truth. This is the transparency you need when you're thinking about how to invest. This is my company that I started with a dear friend. Go check it out. Subscribe to our newsletter today. Use my code word dollar, DOLLAR, 76research.com. Of course, don't forget our good friends over at American Hartford Gold, up to $15,000 right now in free silver. Just go to trishlovesgold.com or text Trish to 65532, call them at 1-844-495-1115. We have, as I said, so much reading to do and so much more to get to on this story. But I leave you with this thought today. You know what? We need trust, we need faith, and we just went a whole long ways towards reestablishing that by allowing the public to actually see what is going on. So I congratulate Donald Trump and the entire team for this one. And I'll do some more reading and be back to you tomorrow. We got a lot more coming your way.